wanted to have that opportunity for the brothers because it's a lot of stuff that will come out of this. And I truly believe that as we've taken advantage of this environment, that we're going to capitalize it and make our organization even that much better. So just for those brothers who have not had a chance to meet Brother Hill and myself, we're going to do a few quick introductions. So Brother Hill, I know you're running around, so if you won't mind just telling folks who you are and a little bit of history about yourself.
All right. Well, good evening, brothers. I hope that everyone has had a great day, and your beginning of the year is looking great for you. Donyel Hill, candidate for the International Grand Vice Polaris. I came in the organization back in 2000. Born and raised in Baltimore. I let's see, work in higher ed, dean of academic support services at a community college. Let's see, what else about me? Um, I'm trying to think of what I do for Toronto. So currently, I am director of conference services for the Eastern region, which that affords me the opportunity to plan all of our regional meetings. And currently, we're working on our spring regional, as well as I am the program chair for Conclave for 2021. We're excited about this platform. We're excited about moving the organization to the next level in Iota. And so we hope that you glean some information from us tonight that will kind of help you not necessarily decide who to vote for, but to understand who we are as brothers and trying to help Iota to be the great Iota that we are.
Absolutely. So just to piggyback on some of the other Brother Hill said, so I am Brother Carl Taylor, candidate for International Grand Polaris, and I crossed in the spring of 2000 by way of Alpha Chapter. They came out to a predominantly white institution up in Westminster, Maryland, and pledged me and my LB some 20 some odd years ago. It actually be 21 years in March. I currently serve as a state director for DC, Delaware, and Maryland. And as a state director, um, it's the largest area actually in the Eastern region that I cover. Oversight with 3 assistant state directors, as well as over 19 different graduate and undergraduate chapters, and over 500 some odd brothers that we work with. So if you can imagine the state director being a mini regional Polaris for my area, anything that goes along with that is what I work to and what I support. I decided to run for IGP because I felt like I wanted to be the change that I wanted to see. I mean, we will discuss on this call tonight, brothers, that there are tons of things that you guys know that are common sense things that we should be doing. And we're wondering, like, why is it not happening? It should be happening quicker. I have 14 plus years in the military. I'm an Army reservist. So I bring to bear 5 different industries. I worked in nonprofit, for profit, um, and then I also worked in academia, also worked for the American Red Cross, and currently work for the federal government, and obviously, and still in the military. So I bring all those things to bear, and I want to bring them to help take Iota to the next level. So with that being said, brothers, we got brother IGP on the call. I'm trying to see if there's any other former grand that have maybe have joined. So brother IGP, you may have the mic for the bulk of the evening. Um, so if you don't mind, we're going to do this kind of free flowing, and so I have some hot topics that I wanted to kind of put out there, just get your feedback on. So
Sure.
so any opening remarks, little brother IGP?
First, thank you, Brother Taylor and Hill, for giving us this platform. If anything, Iota is starving to I would say Iota knowledge, and that is probably one of our biggest uh, needs in our organization. So anytime a format like this can happen, it's all for the betterment and the good of the organization. So I truly appreciate it.
Outstanding. Thank you, brother. So I'm just going to start with my first opening one. Brother IGP, can you describe what is an outlaw?
What is an outlaw? I'm glad you said that, because outlaw actually is, and we just had this conversation with uh, the this for the with the founders and the first line of Iota. An outlaw actually, when you break it down, depends on the person who's saying it, or using it as an identifier.
Mhm.
Uh, to some of our founders, or to some of our earlier members, excuse me, they may look at the outlaw or the tag of outlaw in a negative manner,
Mhm.
because of the time and place where they were, and where Iota was. To some of our other members who might have come out a little later, maybe somewhere in the mid 80s, uh, mid 90s, or somewhere like that, they look at the outlaw as um, that class of brothers that came in, look at it as a more rebellious cry,
Mhm.
because a lot of our chapters were going through heavy suspensions in the 80s and the 90s. And then as you get right out of the 90s, it becomes more with those brothers that we've talked to, it becomes more of a different identifier. It's like a catchphrase, or something that they use, when they're saying, well, Iota needs a hook.
Mhm.
What is that? Q's have dogs, we have sitos. So something of those nature. So it all depends on the person you're talking to for that long answer.
Okay, no, that's fine. Do you consider yourself an outlaw?
I came in the 80s. I consider myself outlaw. I would say outlaw friendly, if that
Okay.
makes sense. Like, I can be an outlaw when I choose to be. I'm an Iota man, but if it gets to the point where I have to be an outlaw, because again, in my mind, outlaw says that I may be a little bit unorthodox if I have to be, or a rebellious person if I have to be.
Yeah, and I think one of the things I've said when we talked before was about Iota being somewhat of a house divided up against itself, because we do have brothers that are just angry, and they and then we have brothers, and then and they revel and start in mischief, or I remember hearing an older brother tell me a story about people getting dragged out of conclave years ago,
Yeah,
and
yeah,
that
yeah.
that was like a thing. And but then you also got a more progressive wing of Iota, where we're like, okay, we got to do things differently to get us to the next level. So the challenge, I think, one of the challenges I was thinking was that how do we bring those two together and say, hey, yeah, we still want to identify with having that, the outlaw spirit, because that energy of being an outlaw, but how do we also put that into structure so that we're still moving forward and not tearing everything down?
Well, and it's funny you say that. This is going to sound crazy, so I know I'm on the record, but Iota is the I wouldn't say the typical, but let's say the members that I run across, when they become an Iota, it's a certain kind of brother. You know what I mean? It's not the same run of the mill. I mean, I get a chance to talk to all the other organizations all the time, but Iota is that special kind of person. You're not going to pledge Iota for popularity. You're not going to pledge Iota for millions of brothers floating around. That kind of brother that pledges Iota is a different kind of member, and he has even our soft spoken, even tone members. Underneath that has a little bit of an edge to
Mm-hmm.
him. Okay. The most quietest brother we have, if you pluck him just right, he's going to be ready to bite your head off. Iota, uh, uh, if you look back in the 80s, and we in some cases the 90s, in some cases even later, when we were fighting the Qs and the Kappas and the Sigmas, we were always together. We were a
Mm,
tight unit because we had a enemy. Now
right.
that things have become a little bit more civilized, and I'm eating dinner with the Qs and we're having lunch with the Kappas, and we don't have a group of people to fight anymore. So we turn on each other on so many cases. So I think in order to, and not saying that this is their fault or anyone's fault, but in order to, in my opinion, in order to get us to kind of come together, we have to have that common, I don't want to say enemy, but that common cause that brings us together, saying, okay, it's, I don't dislike my brother. I need to take that aggression I have toward my brother and need to aim it towards something else. We both can fight for it. So, their phone is constantly ringing. So I think that's a step in the right direction for us.
Yeah, I think that's really powerful what you said, because it's relevant. It actually dovetails into the other point we want to throw out there. And Brother Hill, jump in whenever you feel like, you have anything
Well,
on that one.
I was going to add on to the tail end of uh, Brother Grant Polaris, is that you talked about the outlaws, but then you talked about how we were together, and then the enemy were the the other Greeks fraternities, rather, if you will. But then now we've turned on ourselves. Um, I believe that in us selecting those persons who are serving with us now, we looked at, brothers from all walks of life. No little I's or big U's, but the common
Mhm.
denominator, Dre, is those brothers who really want to work, and those brothers who are not necessarily calling themselves outlaws, but they are really Iota men who really want to work for the good of the organization. Not necessarily, you know, your pedigree, because that's not what's, I guess, that's not what's on display, but it's more so of the work and what you do and how you stand for Iota. And I think that if we shifted our mindset, I'll say that, and not work against each other, I think that's one of the things that will help make a better Iota. And I hope that for both teams, whomever come and take this next position, because, you know, for me, it's not really about, who is better, because Iota is Iota is Iota, but it's more about how can we bring the brotherhood together, whether it's through reclamation, whether it's through any programs any of us have, but just making Iota to be that man that we should be and growing to be.
Okay.
Well said.
All right. And so going back to that, Brother Hill, both of you guys kind of hit right into the next point. We talked to brothers about how to bring back the love to the organization. Um, uh, uh, Brother IGP, anything that jumps out at you in terms of like what you've been experiencing, in terms of how we might get back to doing that, where brothers are, they feel the energy that we had years ago, in the 80s, that sort of thing, when around the time when you came in. So
Well, I first we need to get rid of the, and this is going to sound like I'm looking through the world with rosy colored glasses. We need to get rid of the animosity and all of the self um, importance. We again, we often, I was raised in the fraternity with the slogan of personal honor before personal gain,
mm,
and sometimes Iota, we get kind of caught up in some things. So I think that the solution to that is, uh, and this is difficult sometimes, is to start surrounding ourselves around the celebration part of the organization, allowing ourselves to celebrate, to enjoy one another. On the national website, or you'll see some things where brothers are doing something positive, and we try to put that out. We have to learn to celebrate and support one another. Uh, and again, sometimes that becomes difficult because even here, you all are putting something together really good right now. And somewhere in our wonderful world of Iota, someone is looking at this as a negative piece. And, you know, we have to we have to get past that. And again, I know I said that, but again, my answer to that would be come up with not necessarily programs, but opportunities where we can kind of hang out, party, enjoy one another. Brother Taylor, I'm gonna bring this up about you, and I hope I hope it doesn't hurt you or anything like this.
I got thick skin.
Good, good. 1 year. I've always known you. Even when you first came in, you started out. So I've known you for a good long while. And the best memory I have of you is when the fraternity was at an IOC in Vegas. And we were in front of the band. And you may not remember me standing out there. We were in front of the live band out there on the Vegas floor, and everybody was dancing, and we were doing some kind of, I don't know if we were doing whatever that line dance was or anything like that. And at that moment, I looked over to my right, and you were over there dancing. I was dancing, and Felicia was dancing, and Felita was dancing. Everybody was having a great time. And to me, that is an Iota memory. You know, I've been in meetings with you. You've seen me stand up and be long-winded and all that shit. Excuse me, all that stuff. But it's the moment when we're actually all out there having a good time. That to me is Iota. And we need to create more opportunities like that.
And so it's interesting, Brother Polaris, that you say that, because this forum was actually initially, all of the former Grand Polari and Grand Vice Polari were invited because the idea was to kind of talk to you guys and kind of glean from, you know, some nuggets, to kind of talk about some what we call push button items that Brother Taylor's going to bring up. But what I wanted to do was to kind of, I guess, redirect that, because you're the only person, so we don't want to necessarily put you in the hot spot, but more so kind of just I guess listen to impart information. So initially, some of these were going to be listening tours, but because of COVID, we really weren't able to get out. And so we say that to even with the other brothers that are on this call, we wanted this to be a listening tour to kind of listen to, what are some of the upshots of Iota? What does it mean to be an Iota to you? What are some of the challenges that you all believe that we're facing that, your next administration need to address, spot on? I was just watching what President-elect Joe Biden was talking about just before we got on this call, and he's laid his plan out already, which tells me that this was done before he found out that he won, but he's really for the people, and he gleaned a lot of that from what's happening now. And so hopefully with the dialogue, not just a question and answer, but the dialogue from everyone that's here, for whatever your purpose is here, is to kind of just talk about what Iota is to you. Where do you see us? How do we move forward? What are some things that we can build upon? What are some things that we need to bring back? Those kind of things, just to have that healthy conversation. As you said, these moments in Iota, and we're hoping that we can create these moments in Iota, because this is something new. And, when our team decided to do this, this was like, okay, this can be a winner. So, we're looking for this to be a winning moment when we finish this call.
Great. Yeah, I think it will be. I've had the privilege and again, talking to both teams, both camps. I would say this to everybody on this call, that, and please spread this around, that we have to be very careful as we're in this stage. And I said this very same thing on the other call with the other camp, because where we are at this stage is very sensitive. Okay, everybody is looking for the answer, how to be more aggressive, how to do whatever we got to do, and it's going to put the camps in a mindset, if we're not careful, of trying to create promises, trying to, because you want to do so much for the organization, and you might find yourself creating a situation where we can't get out of. And what I mean by that is, we're going to make promises that, oh yeah, we're going to do this, and we're going to, when you turn on your water faucet, chocolate milk will come out. All kind of great, wonderful things that may happen, but we have to remember that those are goals and not promises. And when I say that is that the members have to know that, because we're at the mercy of the resources and the money that we have within our organization. So when a Grand Polaris and the Grand Vice Polaris takes that oath and they get sworn in, and they and their eyes are open, and they realize that a lot of the resources that they had hoped was there are not. There's some structural elements within the organization they have to fix first before they get to those things. And the members are screaming, well, I want this now. Now, you promised, but you can't give it to them right now because of whatever those pieces are. And I want our members to understand that. Whomever is in the office, take it easy. Push them, but it's not. They're not Santa Claus.
So it's funny. I'm glad that you said that, because in our private conversations, Mr. Taylor and I, we've been talking about that. We can put, if you look at our website, and we have what our platform is, but because of culturally where we are now, it's so hard to determine what the next is, not just for Iota, but for the world at large. And so I'm glad that you said that, Brother Polaris, because I hope that everyone on the call really resonates, that statement resonates with them, and then you take it out. Our Brother Taylor and I, we're only going to be as good as the people who support us, but our platform may say every star, but like you said, come day one, we have just a few weeks to submit that budget, and if that budget is trash, we got to sit there, we got to work and see how to make that happen. So that becomes a priority, and everything else becomes an option. And so that's kind of the realm of where we want to operate from. This is what we want in terms of our goals, but without giving promises, we just have to see what's in there. None of us, all four of us, have never been in this seat right here. And so there is no great experience to say, well, what experience do you have? It's about when you get in that seat. Because I remember, Drace, when you and I were sitting just moments before they made the announcement, and the conversation that we had, and I'm not going to put what the conversation was, but in that conversation we had, it was like, well, really, what's next? What happens? Talking about it if and when. And then when we went in the room and we found out that you won, it was kind of like, oh, okay, so what is this going to look like? And I'm quite sure you could attest that anything and everything you thought about prior to walking into that room may have changed once you sat down and had that courageous conversation with Kevin, and he said, okay, well, this is what it is. Or Brother Clark saying, all right, God bless you, here's what you got to do. It's almost like your plan had to go out the window. So
exactly. And yeah, you and I, we were sitting in the foyer of the
in a
I guess of
hotel.
the conference of the hotel. Yeah. And I remember it correctly. And you're 100% correct. When I looked back over my shoulder and actually saw the tally there, and I'm like, well, wait, that means I won. Uh-oh. And
Yeah,
and
that was almost your expression. It was like, uh-oh. Like,
yeah. Wait a minute. Oh, so okay. And the funny thing is, from the very moment after the vote was in, my time went away. My personal time went away. I hadn't gotten off the stage before I was assigned security. Like, I was like, is somebody gonna shoot me? What's going on? And it was a total different atmosphere as far as fraternity, because it wasn't security to protect me. It was security to get me from A to B without getting stopped every 30 seconds. I hadn't even talked to my wife yet. She heard over somebody text her while she was in her meeting that I was selected. And it wasn't until I got back to my hotel room before I actually got a chance to even share the moment with her. I mean, so yeah, it's a totally different, yeah, it definitely is different.
Brother IGP, can you tell the people on the call just real quick about people calling you, you being accessible to all the brothers, everybody having your phone number?
Yeah,
that
well,
story,
the odd thing is as you're coming through the fraternity, your frat brothers are who they are. You're your bros, right? So everybody has your phone number. If you're the state director, at least 50 people have your phone number. If you're a brother of general population of brother, if you're chapter Polaris, if you're anybody. So those brothers keep those numbers. And as you kind of move on within the organization, and the next thing you know, you look up, you're the grand vice or the grand Polaris, those brothers that called you then are going to call you now. And it's nothing for me to get a phone call 10:30 at night, 11 o'clock at night. Hey, Brother Grand, I'm sorry to call you so late. Hopefully I'm not disturbing you. I'm like, dude, it's 11 o'clock. I mean, the only reason why I picked it up is because I didn't know the number or, something. And I'm thinking somebody maybe heard her. And it's a Iota is very accessible
Okay.
when it comes to the members. I want to say this to everybody on the call.
Hmm.
If the Taylor Hill camp wins, do not be upset if they don't pick up the phone. I don't care how, unless you're founder Spurl or founder Coakley or something like that, don't get upset if they don't pick up the phone right away. It's not because they don't want to talk to you. It's that there has to be some kind of healthy break between the leadership and the brotherhood. And I know that sounds really bad, but keeping in mind that when you're the grand vice or the grand Polaris, all questions kind of funnel towards you. So that means no matter how many brothers, financial and non-financial brothers will call you. So you may have, so everybody gets in contact with you. And if you don't have that time for yourself, you're not going to be able to make it.
I'm
You
so
got to be
happy
able
you.
to.
Yeah, I'm going to cut you off. I'm so happy you keep going right into the next topic. So because I want to talk to you, I want to ask the brothers about chain of command.
Oh,
I've spoken to some of the regional Polari, and one of the topics that they talk about a lot is the chain of command and how brothers don't care about that. They don't. They just want to go, go right to the top. So can you talk about, and Brother Hill, I think if folks are able to, if they want to chime in, they can like raise their hand and we'll go ahead and let them chime in so at least we have some order in this. But Brother IGP, could you talk a little bit about,
chat. The chat is still available. So if anybody has a pressing question as we're talking, definitely feel
Okay.
free to drop it in the chat.
Okay. So Brother IGP, chain of command. Yeah, can you talk about how some brothers don't know how to follow it or don't, or I guess more so, how do we, get the brothers to understand chain of command without hurting their feelings, not pissing
well,
them off?
that's a cultural thing, okay?
Yeah.
Because Iota culture is, again, we're so reachable, we're so accessible, excuse me, that it's hard to say, hey, you know what, this is Dre. I pledged with him back, we and I ran out in the street in 88. I mean, okay, so of course they're gonna call. And I got a problem. I know I need to talk to my RP, but Dre is standing right there. Or brother, the grand vice is standing right there, or whoever's standing. They're going to call you. And we can put up, the other night someone said, well, what if we put up a float chart and all that stuff? Deep down, all our brothers know the chain of command. Because if you tell me you are a state director, that tells me that you are higher rank than the chapter Polaris. I already know this. So, and not because of I've been in administration. So the brotherhood knows the chain of command. Our problem is our culture that we're very accessible because we're such a young organization.
And so that's a great point. But I wanted to say to all the brothers on the call, think of it if you're at your job, before you go to your director of your agency, you're probably going to talk to your supervisor first about said issue or said topic before you just shoot an email up the chain. So, but I think you're absolutely right about just that happening, because I tell people, at least give me an opportunity to at least fix it, to at least try, at least, as a state director, I was like, at least give me an opportunity to at least try. And then if I don't meet the standard, then going up the chain, that's fine. But at least call me first. Like, I would like to be able to address the matter before it gets to the IGP,
And it's our fault too as leaders. Okay. If I have a chapter problem with my chapter Polaris and I'm in whatever state, and I need to really talk this problem through with my chapter Polaris first, But why would I do that if me and the state director been out drinking? Or at one time we used to hang out and been out dancing. So why can't I just call and talk to him? I mean, that's where it's got to go anyway. And that's where our frat has a challenge. It's like, why would I talk to the RP or the state director when me and the grand vice used to go out hanging out? Again, see, that familiarity is really tough to get by. It's really hard to get by. So
Okay.
I would say this to brothers on this call: please do not be offended when the grands vice or grand Polaris says, okay, I hear your issue. Have you talked to your state director or your chapter players or wherever the problem may lie? And then if he then says, okay, well, let me send you on to your RP or wherever that problem needs to go. It's not that he doesn't care. It's just that he cannot obtain that much on the plate at one time. There's no way.
Right.
There's
Go
a
ahead.
good point. There's a question that's in the chat. So the question is that election time is always a sensitive event for any organization, no matter who wins the election. How do we ensure supporters on the opposite end stay active? Well, I know. So from our lens, we actually brought this conversation came up in another call that we had, and the other slate was on, and I shared with Sean. Actually, Sean was on. Myron wasn't, and I basically told him, I says, well, we got to understand that we didn't pledge a person. We pledged a concept and idea of
Yes.
12 brown brothers of the highest degree, our 5 stars. That's what we pledged. So we've committed that, we definitely welcome, when, Brother Taylor and I take office, we definitely welcome, Myron as well as Sean to, hey, you have an asset of something that we could possibly use to make the organization good, not us, make the organization good. And then even on the opposite end, if they were to win, I still will serve, if they're not interested in, using our resources in their administration, I'm very active in my region. It won't stop me from, being bitter or, I didn't win, so woe is me. No, because I didn't pledge the seat as a Grand Polaris. I pledged Iota Phi Theta Fraternity Incorporated, and this is my reasonable service. This is what we're supposed to do. We all took that same oath, and so there are certain things that we're supposed to do, and so we definitely will do those same things, even after the election. Do you want to chime in, Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, that's the saddest thing, because I've seen it happen. We've all seen it happen. A brother getting his feelings, he didn't win something, and then he's ghost. And we're like, what happened to that brother? I saw his platform. He had a whole bunch of great ideas. But I wonder if his counterpart reached out to him and said, hey, brother, I know you didn't win, but you had some great ideas. Is it something you would like to do in administration? You see the national candidates, they do it. They put the people in, Barack gave Hillary Clinton Secretary of State. They had a bitter, fight. So we need to stop, being able to, okay, take it to the chin. You didn't win, but you still, like Brother Hill said, we all took an oath. When I, pledged my oath, I wasn't thinking about, getting mad with somebody. But I will say this to the brothers on the call. We also got to remember that guys are pretty sensitive. Okay. And the difference between women and men is that a woman could be mad with you, but if it's a good cause, she's still going to work to make sure the cause happens. When a man is mad with you or upset with you, he's going to stab you in the back. He ain't going to do nothing to support you. And our organization cannot survive like that, brothers.
No.
So as you are on this call, please go out and tell your LBs, ones you haven't spoken to in a while. Listen, we need all hands at the table. We need every brother to help out and support, even if whatever your particular gift is, bring that to our organization, because we can't afford to turn anybody away. We need all hands on deck. So that is a great point, just talking about just not getting to our feelings. I mean, we understand we are human, but again, Iota needs everybody. We don't get, so I'm sure you've seen people that run, and then I haven't seen them since they ran. I mean, the brothers that ran against you, brother IGP, they just ghosts.
Well, I got to say this, and this is the good thing about the group that ran with me. unfortunately, Brother Miller has had some physical challenges, and but still pushing the fight. And actually, the same would go with the brother Grant Vice, also, still pushing the fight. The the problem, and this is why I wanted us to be very careful. And when I mean us, not necessarily the leadership, I'm talking to the brothers here.
Mhm.
Uh, we make it so hard to run for office. Uh, let's pretend. Let me paint a big picture as I kill more time on your thing.
No, that's fine.
Let's pretend that there were no iotas involved in the selection process of the Grand Polaris
Mhm.
or the Grand Vice. It was, you put a name in the machine kicks it out, and that's who the next one is. If it was that, if it was that stressless, and brothers weren't on social media killing one another and talking bad about different camps, it probably wouldn't be that bad. But through that process, so I said we got to be careful. Through this process of campaigning, and I got to one up the other camp. And if you go to Facebook, you see uh, documentary on, oh, well, this is how bad this camp is, and this is how great this camp is. And then brothers start creating their own little groups within their groups, and was that stabbing each other in the back, the whole 9 yards. That becomes very stressful. So come time for conclave, and the selection is made. If you are not selected, all those knives, all those bad conversations, they kind of came and made their mark on you, because you've had to endure all that stuff. And after it's all said and done, you're left with the abuse of it. And you typically will step away and just kind of get themselves together. So it's a tough scenario. It's
That's a part of bringing that love back, by the work that we do.
Exactly.
It has to happen organically. You can't pull love out of your pocket and say, "Hey, here's love." But there's a question in the chat actually that kind of will speak to, bring the love back. So a brother sent a message that says, "I would like to know if we can create a national media campaign for interest and the reclaiming of brothers." Well, so one of the interesting things that Brother Taylor and I we've talked about is that we want to invest in who we are. One of the things that we're finding out, and no fault of anybody, so this is not a browbeating anyone. We believe that we haven't put enough money into marketing and branding. And when I say marketing and branding, I mean, so Brother Gibbs, I think he's on the call. He does a really great job, putting this stuff out there. But you always hear, how many times have you heard brothers say, "Well, what do we get for our dues?" Or, how many times have you gone somewhere and says, "Well, who's Iota?" or "What is that?" If we were able to secure a marketing branding company outside of the organization that will look at, okay, this is who we are. I need you to make us look good, whatever that looks like, our goods, our bads, and where we can actually grow. That marketing package or kit or whatever they provide for us, can catapult us internally and externally, so that when brothers say, "Well, what do I get for, paying my dues?" Hopefully they will have an iota in review. We give it to them. This is what you get for being an iota. Where can I help? This is where you can help. So the brother who asked that question, absolutely, that is something we're definitely interested in. And so I hope with that question being asked coming from you, you're like, okay, I want to be a part of that, because that's what we need. We need the help. And if it's in the house, we say it in the church, everything you need is in the house. So if there's a gift, there's a craft that you have, and you could get past, whether you haven't been active or financial for the last 10, 20 years, or if you had a falling out with the brothers, I told my staff today, I said, "Hey, well, today is a new semester. This is a new year. Let's do a reboot." So today, brothers, let's do a reboot. If there's anything that was said or done by me, Mr. Taylor, the brother next to you, or the brother down the street, let's say, "Hey, all is forgotten. Let's go a new leaf," because we need to move the organization in a different direction. We can't stay where we are, because Brother Polaris, he's done a great job, with us doing with COVID, but we get ready to get past COVID, hopefully, prayerfully.
Yeah,
So what
hopefully.
is that? What is right? What does Iota look like post COVID? Are we still going to do the same things? Are we going to go to in person? Are we going to be scared? Those things. So definitely, yes, that is something that we're looking at, and we're hoping that we can get the funds to do that. And if the organization doesn't, if we win, we got a couple of things up our sleeve, right, Mr. Taylor?
Yeah, we need to. So great points, brothers. This is not a game for me. And I tell brothers, we're not getting paid for this. I don't know where brothers, they're thinking that we're going to get something out of this. It's really just because of the love. I'm sure Brother IGP has put a lot of blood, sweat, and tears, money, time away from his wife, from his family. And that's a large commitment. And so I am under no, rosy color imagination that things are going to be easy. But I really believe that we have the tools and the skill sets to just really take the fraternity to the next level. And I'm not interested in browbeating anybody. I want to be a person and operate in integrity. Hill and I totally agree. When we do things, we want to be the change we want to see. So for instance, we consider ourselves to be servant leaders. So we're never going to ask anybody to do anything that we're not willing to do ourselves. I'm not sitting up on a pedestal up here. Oh, I'm IGP. I can do A, B, C, and D. No, I heard Founder Sproul get up at one of the conclaves and say he was no more of an iota than any of us in that room. That was a profound statement to me, because if a founder could say that to us, that means that he understands that he's the freaking founder. He said that. So it's almost like he knows it's bigger than even him. Because brothers, we cannot continue to tear each other down. So Brother Hill, I know we got a question. Go ahead.
Yeah, there's another question. I'll pass it to you. What does an impactful and effective Iota look like, and what needs culturally and administratively to get there?
Yeah, so that's a loaded
question. I don't know, maybe Larry, could you answer that, or any brother on the call?
Yeah, we can tag team. I mean, it's a great question. It's just it's multi-layered.
Yeah,
it is.
So what does an impactful and effective Iota look like, and then what needs to be done culturally and administratively for us to get there collectively? I'm assuming. Anybody want to chime in?
I got something. I can start it off.
Well, I'll say, you know what, we can actually start from where we just finished, Brother Taylor. So you talked about our founder, Lonnie, saying that. I remember when I was pledging, I did not realize who Frank Coakley was until that night when I went to set. I was actually at headquarters, and we were just getting to headquarters. And so, if you've been to headquarters, that gate that separates the train from the headquarters, well, it's nothing but just weeds and everything. So I had to, because I was in line by myself, I was washing cars and pulling down the weeds. And I go over and I'm pulling the things down. And this light-skinned guy came over, and of course, I'm supposed to be respectful to everybody. And so he put on gloves and he started pulling the weeds down with me, and just talking, and just want to know who I was, not in a pledge format, but just want to know who I was. He never introduced himself to me. We had a great conversation. I was like, okay, that's a really cool guy. It wasn't until that night I got to Larry's house, and we're doing what we do. They were asking me about today, and and then they told me who that was. And ever since then, I've always said, well, guess what? If he can be a servant and a founder, then what makes me any more greater in any position that I may have to not do the same? And so that has been something that's that bond that we have. So I would say, having a servant spirit, for the brother who asked that question, here to serve. If we are a service organization, then are we doing more serving, or are we asking to be served?
Yeah. And we have to go back to the building blocks of Iota. That's why in our motto, we say we are re-engaging our stars. So we didn't have to come up with anything great and, beyond that, because a lot of the brothers sometimes forget it. The founders gave us what we needed when they put together this great organization. So all we have to do is go back to the basics. The things that sustained us for over 55 years, over 57 plus years. It's those meat and potatoes of making sure that so whatever event that we're having, or whatever our national initiatives are, they should be aligned to a star, and they should go back into supporting the brothers. And by the way, so into the brothers. I'm a big fan of you know, you reap what you sow. So for instance, we want to be able to sow into the brothers, because if they feel invested and engaged, then they really are going to want to give back. If I feel like all you're doing is taking from me, take, and I'm getting nothing back, then that's anybody that's going to not want to be a part of that. But something as simple as you know a brother's about to graduate and you go take it upon yourself to go get him a graduation stole. Those type of things are basic things, but they go a long way. Brother IGP, before we move on, anything you want to say on that topic, or?
Well, yeah, I would definitely say that you guys both hit it on the head there. But an iota uh, of such is he looks like a brother that's involved.
Mm.
A lot of times we see members who kind of complain a lot more than they actually do, you know. And so to me, that brother is the brother, productive iota, or I forgot what the slip phrase was, is the brother who's involved. Because when you're out there doing community service, you're out there supporting and doing our stars and holding up our tenants. When you're doing those things, you automatically, in my mind, embrace the brotherhood of this fraternity and the meaningfulness of this fraternity. Get out there, get off the couch, get off whatever you're doing, and get involved. And also, this is going to sound somewhat corny, but spread some brotherly love. I mean, the reason why we have that star, that brotherhood star, kind of gets, in my opinion, kind of skipped over. Everybody talks about the fidelity and leadership and scholarship, you know. Okay, and they kind of leave off that brotherhood. I mean, because that brotherhood means that you're going to have to forgive sometimes. You're going to have to support sometimes, like you said, purchasing the stole or getting out there and I know I'm a founder, but I'm gonna help you with these weeds down and hanging out with the brothers. And that brotherhood is a very, very important tenet. And that's, to me, how you can tell a good brother.
Amen.
We,
Amen.
Brother Taylor, we have a lot of questions coming in. I
Go
know
ahead.
this
Yes,
is
bring them
going to
in. Go
jump
ahead.
off. So the question is, how will intermediate officers be reviewed for role performance? And if they are not fulfilling their duties, how will they be guided effectively in a volunteer role?
Yeah. So one of the good things that I think our team brings to the table is that we have folks who've been working with groups or organizations for quite a while. And so I believe, first and foremost, that we should put a call out for all of the, when administration starts, anybody who's interested in serving in a particular role, they submit their application and then we review them. And then let's say someone gets into a particular role, and that person, we decide that person is going to be a leader of the team, we're going to have those additional persons still be a part of that team. So let's say if someone applies to be the the national director of intake, and then we have that person as the lead, but then we're going to have a team that's going to support him, and so that helps to kind of support the chain, so that it's not in Iota right now. We're like one deep. Okay, so it's like if that brother goes down, we struggling. Like where to help at? So we're going to have a team in place for every director position, so that person can have some support. And then if to the point about someone not being, let's say if they're not being held, they're not doing their job correctly, then we'll have that courageous conversation with them and be able to say, hey, brother, look, these are the expectations. So I'll say to you, when you come to the job, we're going to have a listing of things that we expect, and then we'll do these monthly check-ins with you, say, okay, these are what we expect. It's not being able to be done. Okay, let's transition out and we'll go to the next level in a way that we're being transparent with you. I cannot expect you to do something that I have not communicated with you about. And I think that's part of the issue. Sometimes people, we get in our feelings, we feel some kind of way. So what will take place is that if you're not effective, it may be something personal going on with that individual brother. Have that conversation, and then we'll go from there. But it'd be a case-by-case basis, because everybody won't be the same scenario. But definitely going to try to keep them engaged without hurting their feelings and letting them know there's still value added.
Okay. There's another question. Why is it challenging for Grand Polaris and those running for Grand Polaris to come up with a detailed plan to enhance the organization? Because as a brother, I see pitched ideas, but never a concise plan that can be soundly executed. Great question. I believe Brother Manson, he kind of hit it a little earlier, and we'll kind of reiterate it. Oftentimes, more often than not, and as he shared, you know, you can look at our website, th1963.org, and you go to our platform, and you'll see our platform, and we've strategically put it together under the 5 stars. But those 5 stars and the things that we want to do may not necessarily align with what we see come day one or the first 100 days. And so while you're talking about you have a great detailed plan, that plan is ideally just that, a plan. And sometimes plans have to be changed. And so once we get into office, we have to look at, okay, well, what is the current climate of the organization? And if that current climate does not align with some of the things that we do or that we want to do or that we're desiring to do, then we have to put our plan on the back burner to address some of the immediate needs that may be happening in the fraternity. Of course, notwithstanding, you know, putting something together. So when you look at our platform, of course, Brother Taylor and I, we have extensively talked to the elders of the church, if you will. You know, we've had some long, detailed conversations with some brothers that have gone back as the early 60s and 70s to kind of get some ideas, some concepts, and even this call is still kind of one of those learning, listening tours, so that as we listen to some of the questions that are coming up, you know, we're going to deliberate and say, hey, we might need to shift some things, or, you know, let's keep them as they are, but having an understanding that all of this may be changed come September, when we take office.
Right. Jump in? So just real quick, I was going to say, brothers, the fraternity is working on the strategic plan. Okay, so, and I know Brother Manson and Brother Hill is also on the committee, and what that will help to do is structure us in a way that, to the person's question, will actually help to guide us, and you will see some sustainability once that fully gets fleshed out, because ideally any administration that comes in will simply just try to enhance what we've already put together in terms of seeing the fraternity grow. So to your point, I think we're moving in the right direction, and I think in the coming years you will start to see more of that consistency being fleshed out.
Yeah, good point.
Duly noted. I think if I may, I think it was a boxer that says everybody has a plan until they get punched in the mouth. And once that bell rings, all my little plans just went like, and the next thing I know, I'm sitting in front of the Council of Presidents and the Black Congress, and I'm like, okay, I don't have a plan for that. So, as you said, the strategic planning committee is in place, and they're working diligently trying to create the longevity that Iota needs in its leadership and decision making. And me, just like my predecessor, I plan on whatever camp wins or is selected, because it's not a win, whatever camp is selected, to be there to help pass that baton. What do I need? Let me show you where this is done. Okay, let's have a conversation. Whoever is selected, let's talk about the budget. Let me give you what we gave this last year and show you where everything is at, so that you're ready to prepare the budget when it's due. So it's going to have to be something that is definitely a marathon. It's definitely not a sprint. And you can't do it within your term when you're getting side hit from all these other directions. You just can't.
There's another question. Would it be a fair assumption that even those that are serving, assisting on campaign committees should be financial nationally and locally? And so to answer that question, brother, you're absolutely correct. Not only campaign committees, but all brothers. Before we had a title, before we had a position, the oath of office was a part of us being financial. We were all told that there's a financial obligation to that. Should they be? Absolutely. But I remember a time when we were looking for people to who were willing to serve. My own story. I remember at one point I could not be financial, and I remember I went to New Orleans and I told Brother Bennett, "Hey, I'm not financial, but I want to serve," and he allowed me to serve the entire week. So you're right, but the truth of the matter is that every brother is not financial. Do we turn them down? Do we shun them away from us? No, but what we try to do, as Brother Taylor and I have done, we try to empower them. So for instance, everybody in our campaign, I think we're probably at about maybe 52% of the people are financial. There are some brothers who need assistance. They reached out to us and said they need assistance. And so we're working to be able to help underwrite that, but they're working in our campaign. Now, one of the things that we have done is upon taking office, that all of the brothers are required to be financial. And so we've been talking about that. And so I think what the date is February, something that, everybody agreed that they will be financial for this year because of the integrity. Integrity says that I'm gonna do what I'm supposed to do, even if no one is looking. And so our chief of staff can attest to it. We're looking for brothers to be, and if there's any brother, who's not, we're not millionaires, but this is the commitment that we're making to the organization. So yes, they should be, and even everyone who's going to serve in our administration will have to be. That is a requirement to be financial nationally and locally. Uh, Great
Sorry,
assessment.
I really just wanted to twist on what Brother Hill said. When we talk about being servant leaders, like I said, when we had a conversation with our team, we said, hey, I'm not in your pockets, but this is a requirement that we need to maintain. We can't ask others to do something that we're not willing to do. So, and even being a state director, I say that to my chapter Polaris all the time. We have to, demonstrate what right looks like. And so what we said to them was that, hey, if you're having some struggles, I'm not in your pockets, but if you have some struggles, let us know and we'll help you, get, and brothers, I feel like real recognizes real, okay? And brothers will appreciate that, okay? So I just want to put that out there. I don't want to belabor the point, but Brother Hill, go ahead, next question.
Yes, what meaningful programs, leadership development, and consistent recognition for undergraduates is being explored from the Taylor Hill campaign and has been explored from our current IGP? We have some awesome undergrads who are making significant strides in their chapters in their communities. Well, I think we all know, that undergrads, they are definitely doing some great work. But from our campaign, we can just start in our own camp. We have employed several undergraduates who are working with us because we're giving them a chance. We're giving them exposure to what leadership looks like, what administration and leadership looks like from a fraternal perspective. There are so many things that we've talked about, and all of them don't come to my mind. But if you check our website out, it's a balance between undergrads as well as alumni. I don't think we can necessarily. I don't think it'd be fair for us to speak from the current administration. And I don't know, Brother Manson, if you want to kind of talk about what are some of the programs and recognitions for undergrads that could be explored from the current administration.
Sure. The question behind, or the thing behind that is, we have a couple of programs we've been working with, starting with our second Grand Vice. As far as there's a program that where he can actually earn college credits while he's in college working for the organization. And we're doing the same thing, trying to open that up for our general counsel or a lawyer for those who are in college and are trying to get their law degree or things of that nature. They can work alongside of our general counsel, and we're trying to see how well that does. And so far, that program has been doing very well with our second grant. And we want to try to see if we can move that out further. The other things we were doing was trying to separate our ILC to an undergraduate summit. The unfortunate thing is COVID hit. Actually, it was supposed to have been happening in 2020 for the undergraduate summit. I want to say it was it was going to be in Atlanta or Chicago. I can't remember which one we decided was going to have, which one it was going to be in. And we were just going to concentrate on the undergraduate training and development on that. Unfortunately, it is what it is. COVID kind of took that away from us. And we also had it was going to be sponsored by the, by the local chapters in areas, and also you would send one or two brothers from the undergraduate chapter for that. And there was a few others that we tried to do. The first thing we tried to do was relieve the financial strain from an undergrad. So if you probably know now, whenever you have a new member that comes in, he's got the 2 years without have to pay his dues. when he first gets in. I got to say that when he first gets in, not 6 years after he got in. And that was the idea. I wanted to try to do more than that, because my mind is, once a brother crosses and he's at an undergraduate level, he usually crosses around his sophomore year. Let him have the rest of his undergraduate year free as far as paying dues. And then only dues he needs to be concentrating on is alumni dues. So, it's certain things like that we were trying to get done. Again, some we have successfully. The 2-year piece, we've got that. We've got that successfully. The only challenge again was the undergraduate summit that I would have liked to seen kicked off, but it didn't happen.
Okay.
Yeah.
Brother Taylor, what is the plan to grow chapters on the undergraduate level?
Oh, okay, great question. So we talk a lot. So that's another multi-layered question, but I'll hit it to you in this category. So every chapter, undergraduate chapter, is unique. You got some at predominantly white colleges. You got some at black HBCUs. So what would be key is to have a strategy for whatever works. Particularly, first of all, you have a conversation with that regional Polaris, that state director, the undergraduate chapter, kind of see what the environment is for that particular group area, because what may work in the Eastern region may not necessarily work in the far West, for instance. So we would have a plan. We would sit down with them, find out where their strengths are, where their weaknesses are, and then we would sit back and develop a plan that's unique for them in particular. So that's what would be the overall strategy. I could say some whimsical things here today, and then it don't come true. But you guys and I both know that once you get in with those chapters, they can tell you best what's going to work better for them, and then we could craft a plan that's actually going to be successful and sustainable. And so I don't want to be too specific, because it'll take away from what may be relevant at that particular time. But what I can guarantee, should we get the opportunity to lead, you will have that support to ensure that the chapters, undergrad chapters, are succeeding and doing well, because they're the lifeblood of our organization.
So there's another question. It's a little long one. I think we have one more after this. I think we might want to start kind of bringing it in.
Okay.
So, question. I see good points from both tickets. All candidates have great assets and leadership in their own right. So with that said, how can we create one unified Iota while we all engage at the stars? We can have the best of both worlds no matter what right.
So I could answer that just by all the brothers still working for Iota. That's so like Brother IGP mentioned, somebody's not going to get selected. And so then that means that the people who do not get selected will still be working for the organization. I didn't pledge a campaign. I pledged Iota, the greatest organization on this earth. Okay. And it's just that simple to me. So and if more brothers felt that way about the organization, and I understand brothers join for different regions, for different reasons, but I think if we really remember our oath, if every brother really remembers that, I think that's the key to it. So that's what I think would be the perfect thing to have happen. I know we got some more questions, and we care for the time.
Yeah, so there's just a comment. Our brother Stan, he said one idea going back to the undergrads, how to grow them, would be to hold grad chapters more accountable for the success and growth of undergraduate chapters. And definitely that comes with the graduate and undergraduate director of undergraduate and graduate affairs. There is a question.
Well, let me say something about that. That's true, because we are doing that in the Eastern region. We have alumni chapters aligned to undergraduate chapters, and that particular thing works. But we got some areas where it's the undergraduate chapter, and there's no alumni chapter anywhere near them. So then that's what I was saying earlier about finding the right mix to that. And so, for instance, where there's a chapter, there's no alumni chapter, I step in as a state director, and I serve as that alumni covering for them and support them wherever I can. So that's definitely a great point. I hope I don't get in trouble for this, but I also want to give away a car to an undergraduate brother. Can you imagine if we can find a way to bring, find a scholarship somewhere or partner with Nissan or something like that, and we have them give us, they say, okay, for your top graduate, they got reaches a 4.0, we're able to give them a car, and then we show that brother comes to Conclave and he drive out of there with a brand new car. If churches can do it, clearly our organization can. So there's no lack on ideas and great things we can do, brothers. I'm not trying to be Pollyanna, but I really feel like we're the greatest thing since sliced bread. And yeah. Go ahead, brother. Sorry.
Um, so I think maybe this next question we may ask Brother Manson to address it, because I thought that our bylaws or our policies was one thing, but maybe we'll see. So we have heard the stance on the other tickets position regarding solo and two-man chapters that have been inducted and their value to the fraternity. What is your stance on the undergraduate chapters who have started put as one or two-man lines and now are thriving? How will you support them in the future? And I guess I want to preface that if I understand correctly, I thought in the rule to start a line has to be 5.
If you're starting a chapter, you have to have 5 members minimum. But
Yeah.
we do have a program where, because our chapters and our members have let us know that sometimes starting upstarting a chapter with 5 is a little more difficult, especially in some of our PWI campuses. So you might get like 2 years to get 5 members. So we'll let you do 3 or 2 members on the first line and 3 members on the second line, or whatever the plan works out. I don't know if so. Is a question on how we can support that particular chapter?
Well, I guess I guess then I'm looking at the end of it is like, what is our position on that, because they've heard from the other campaign. So then I think with Mr. Taylor and myself, I was a one-man chapter and he was a two-man chapter. So we certainly support, and Psi chapter, we were thriving and became the #1 chapter for over 10 years. So you take a chapter that had not been active since 1976. So, of course, the new regime of Greeks, they had no concept back in 98, 99, 2000. They had no concept of what Iota Phi Theta Fraternity was. And so lonely old me, I come in, and again, 10 years later, we were still the #1 chapter. And I mean, can you share, from your perspective? So, yeah, we definitely support it. But Brother Taylor, can you talk about when you came in?
Yes, so absolutely. So this is a particular thing very near and dear to my heart, because at the time, I feel like I forget which brother was the regional Polaris. I don't want to say his name because I can't remember, but I remember Pert was
No, it was
Nate Williams.
No, brothers. What's his name? Quentin. Quentin
Was
our
okay.
our RP at the Mid Atlantic region. Isn't that right, Dre?
Okay.
Were you talking about for the RP?
Yeah,
Back
at the
in
time.
you talking about 20 years ago?
It was brother. Yeah, it was brother Quentin. Yep.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Pert must have been state director or something. I don't know.
No,
I think
Pert
Pert
was after him.
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, Pert actually wanted to see my chapter at my private liberal arts college thrive. And so he was up there supporting it and making sure that we were going. But I think about, what if they didn't decide to let my chapter happen, or my colony was what we call it back then. What if they didn't decide to let us come through? I wouldn't be a brother. So I that's very dear to me. So I feel like we just never know. Now I agree there should be a plan for sustainability, similar to what Brother Manson suggested. Definitely should be a plan. But that's when we rely on that alumni chapter, and then we engage with them, or we assign an alumni brother that can work with that chapter to help keep that sustainability. Because right now, let me just throw this out here. We got undergraduates that graduated from Morgan in December. They didn't live in the area. They're going back to like Arizona or New Jersey or what have you. So what we've done is we reached out to those state directors of regional Polaris. Say, hey, brother, this guy's coming to your area. He's a good brother. Make sure you keep in touch with him, keep him engaged. That's just common sense type stuff, right? because that's, you think about it, when we graduate, if you don't live in that area and you got to go back home, you don't know the IOTAs out there particularly, but you know, it's like, okay, I did IOTA when I was in college, but why don't we have little common sense things like that where we call the other region up and say, hey, listen, we got a good brother down there, you know, engage with them, you know, here's this number, X, Y, and Z. So just wanted to throw that in there. Go ahead, Brother Hill.
So I think those are all the questions. I guess we can,
Okay.
Brother Max, do you have any closing thoughts? So this was supposed to be really for the IGP and IGVP, just to kind of share some thoughts. So if you want to kind of share some closing thoughts, we
Yeah.
can. And we can.
Let me kind of quick, if I can, on that last question, just a little bit on one of the challenges that I think that our fraternity has, and I'm hoping that the next administration will have even better success than mine and so forth, is we have to work our change our culture to what you know, to our organization. So a lot of times members make the assumption that the national office can create the programs of sustaining members and making members come back into the organization and all these things. But it's really at the local level where that really happens first, because none of us on this call, to my knowledge, joined the fraternity because the national office was doing so great. You know, they joined at the chapter level because brother so-and-so said hello to them, or they liked the items or whatever the events that that particular chapter was doing, the whole 9 yards. And we kind of have to remember that the national level needs to create an incentive so that those chapters can remember that. You know, hey, look, you know, have you call your chapters, call your people. When's the last time you talked to that brother that hasn't been in the meeting in the last 6 years, or whatever the case is? Because the graduate, I mean, the alumni, I mean, the national level doesn't know that brother hasn't been in a meeting, or he hasn't been paying his dues, or whatever the case is. Lastly, our fraternity, and I get a chance to, I definitely don't compare our organization to anyone else. But being so close to the other organizations, you kind of get a chance behind those closed doors to sit down and talk and find out what's going on. And you look at some of these organizations, and they're grabbing these members from their special intake processes, and you know, you're like, wait a minute, how'd you get this guy? And you know, and it's constant. IOTA's got to get out of the habit of the fraternity members riding on the successes of the national office or the fraternity. It's actually the other way around. Omega Psi Phi is not so great that Michael Jordan decided to pledge. But because Michael Jordan pledged and he's doing his thing, the fraternity just rides on with him. I mean, they ride. I'm not here just to pick on Omega Psi Phi, any other organizations. Al Sharpton now is a Phi Beta Sigma. They're just riding on him as he's doing his thing. And the fraternity needs to create a atmosphere where we have brothers that can be creative, that can do things without the fear of getting smacked down as soon as they do it, or whatever the case is, so that they can strive, so they can do things, and so that they can become bigger than the fraternity. So that when they say, oh yeah, by the way, I know I'm the heavyweight champion of the world in boxing, or whatever the case is, but I take off my shirt, I'm also an IOTA. And they're like, whoa, okay. Or I know that I'm a congressman like Brother Rush, or the next president of the United States, or whatever the case is, and they see that, oh, he is an IOTA too. That's what we need. We need to be able to let our fraternity breathe in that kind of manner. So again, brothers, that's just my little 2 cents on it. I appreciate it. I yield.
That's more than 2 cents, brother. That was good right there. I have one closing kind of statement that I found and I wanted to share with you guys. It's called, you may have heard it before, it's called which one do you feed? It's a quick little story. It said, one evening, an old Cherokee told his grandson about a battle that goes on inside people. He said, my son, the battle is between two wolves inside all of us. One is evil. It is anger, envy, jealousy, sorrow, regret, greed, arrogance, self-pity, guilt, resentment, inferiority, lies, false pride, superiority, and ego. The other is good. It is joy, peace, love, hope, serenity, humility, kindness, benevolence, empathy, generosity, truth, compassion, and faith. The grandson thought about it for a minute and then asked his grandfather, which wolf wins? The old Cherokee simply replied, the one you feed.
Mm, mm.
So just wanted to leave that
Wow.
nugget with the brothers. Any closing remarks, Brother Hill?
No, we just want to thank you guys for sharing with us. In the chat, I put our website. If you want to check out our next events that are coming up, we will be doing a regional frat chats, and so look out for those. So whatever region you're from will be coming this coming Saturday at 10 a.m. We will be doing the Midwest frat chat. You're welcome to join that. Also, there's a small survey that we put in the chat. Feel free to complete that survey just to let us know, what direction we're going in. If there's some thoughts that you have, some comments, even some criticism, so that we can build a better Iota moving forward in the summer. Other than that, thank you, gentlemen, for coming, and we appreciate you joining us.
Thank you, Brother Manson. Appreciate you.
Brothers. Thank you.
Everyone,